Hey everybody, my name is Laura and welcome to Book Bubbler. It's been a few weeks, right? Sorry, life has just gotten crazy, and when it gets crazy I don't do well with keeping up with things that aren't absolutely necessary, and unfortunately this is one of those things. So if you see me leaning to the side or doing this or talking to somebody, I am watching one of Dani's dogs. Dani, it's Penelope Speaks. She's having her baby very soon, and to give her and her husband a little bit of a break, I'm watching one of her dogs. I'm watching Kingston. He is 6 pounds and surprisingly mouthy sometimes. So if you hear him whistling or whining, he's right next to me, but he needs me to look right at him sometimes. Anyways, so that's that. I have a dog temporarily. Okay, let's do some music, shall we? So for the last 3 weeks, I have everything picked out. I just never filmed anything. So 3 weeks ago, I heard the Bee Gees 4 times in a week. 3 times on the radio, all on stations I would never think would normally play the Bee Gees, but it was there. And then one of those times, plus once then in my water aerobics class, I heard More Than a Woman by the Bee Gees. So that is the song of the week from 3 weeks ago, More Than a Woman. Don't typically like that song that much. It's just fine, but when you hear a group like that from so long ago and that song so frequently, I just went with it. Last week's song is Say My Name by Destiny's Child. I was having an early 2000s kind of a moment, well, one don't I, let's be honest here. Good boy. So little Destiny's Child, Say My Name. And this week, I thought I would do something more singer-songwritery, and I'm going with Call It Dreaming by Iron and Wine. This is from maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. I don't even know if Iron and Wine is a single person or a group, but I like their music, so there you go. Some of it reminds me a little bit of Tracy Chapman, Fast Car somehow. Don't know how, but regardless, there we go. Okay, let's get to the books, shall we? I did read a little bit. I'm really trying hard to get back into reading. That has slipped along with everything else in my life recently. So I would go in some kind of order, but it doesn't matter. A and B. I don't remember when I read these. So we'll start with the one that I am almost finished with, but I'm going to call it finished now just so I can read it tonight and return it tomorrow at the library. And that is the start to a brand new series by Janet Evanovich. This is the Gabriella Rose series, and the first book is called The Recovery Agent. So Gabriella is a recovery agent, sort of like a bounty hunter, but usually for things instead of people. And she's divorced from her ex-husband. Her ex-husband got a generational family house somewhere in the Bahamas, I believe. And she lives in a coastal town on the east coast of the U.S. I want to say North Carolina, but please don't quote me on that. And there have been lots of environmental issues and stuff, and people are trying to leave the town, this little tiny town that she is from. So she's trying to find a way to help save the city, and gets a job offer to find the Seal of Solomon, the famous ring. So she decides to take it up, and if she can find this ring, that she can save like almost all the houses in the town and some of the businesses and stuff too. So she gets the word from her grandmother, who communicates with the ghost who lives in her grandmother's house, and also this lady also lived in this house in the Bahamas or wherever, that there's the treasure map that is in a chest underneath the floorboards in this house on the island. So she goes there first. Her ex-husband's still there. Of course, they're very flirty. They were high school sweethearts. They had a very tumultuous relationship off and on through high school, and their marriage was contentious. Divorce is a little contentious, but they get along fairly well. So she's there. She breaks in. He, of course, catches her, and he says he wants to come along. He's a surf teacher, and he's like, yeah, no, this sounds great. Let's go down there. So they're going down to Peru to try and find this thing. They end up running into some crazy sort of demon cult, Supay, S-U-P-A-Y. I'm sure that's a real god. I don't know anything about them though, but these people are trying to find the same thing. They end up getting caught, and she ends up finding what she thinks is the ring, but it's a fake. And this crazy main Supay guy tracks her down in New York, starts killing people. Craziness ensues. So she and her ex-husband go to Peru. They're back in New York. They go to California. They're in, I think, Costa Rica. They're all over the place in North and South America trying to track down the Seal of Solomon. They're sort of involved in drug lords, but some are nice, some are not so nice. You know, it's pretty crazy. It's sort of like Stephanie Plum, but not. It's more like her Fox and O'Hare series, which I also really enjoy. This one, however, is just a 3-star. It was good. I liked it. It was very enjoyable. I had a hard time keeping my attention on it, though, and I think that's more to do with me than anything else, quite frankly. But this was fun. It was adventurous. Some things I didn't really know much about. Again, I don't know if that Supe person is real or not, but I'm going to look into it and just, you know, Google some things. But yeah, I'll read the second book very happily. Probably it'll come out next year. We'll see. So there we go. Recovery Agent. Then we have a romance novel, Kiss Me Annabelle by Eloisa James. This is the second one in the Essex Sisters series. This follows, what's her name? I mean, Annabelle, but so she's the second daughter. And how do I talk about this book without spoiling a lot of what happens in the first book? Okay, so in the first book, the eldest and another one of the sisters get married. Something happens. How do I talk about this? Anyways, the first book, fine. You get to know all the sisters. Their father was very impoverished, but was big into racing horses, and the girls don't have any money, but for their dowry, they each have a specific racing horse. They're sent south to England to be taken care of by an acquaintance of their father's. The oldest daughter is, I think, 24 or 25, and the youngest is, I'm going to say 15 or so. And, you know, they're all in those ages. So Annabelle is 21 or something. She had a head for figures growing up, and her father found that out. So she was put in charge of the family books when she was a teenager, and she's tired of living in poverty. She doesn't want to do this stuff anymore. She doesn't want to struggle anymore. She wants to know that she has an extra chemise if she needs one. She doesn't have to put food on the table, all that stuff. So she just wants to marry someone with money. Someone who is nice, sure, but she's not looking for a love match. And the sort of hot new guy in town this season is a Scottish earl who's rumored to be penniless. So they're talking together. They're both from Scotland, of course, and Annabelle assumes that he is into one of her younger sisters who is trying to ruin her reputation purposely, like her own reputation purposely. Things happen halfway through. Things aren't what they seem. I can't really talk about this without spoiling. This is one of her older series. I think it's her second or third series, and I'm liking this very much so far. I like all the sisters and all the side characters. I like the ton and I just like everything about this. This is a good series. I'm reading another one of hers based on fairy tales. I'm not liking quite as much, but this one I do enjoy. This was 3.5 stars for me, and I'm very slowly reading the third one right now on my Kindle. Keeping it talking about romance, of course, like any good basic person. I binged Bridgerton season 2. It was a very long wait. Watched it in just over a day. So I decided to get back to the Bridgerton series. I stopped reading after book 3 for no reason. So I read book 4. This, it's going to be a little spoilery if you don't know. So when I put my hand down, listen again, okay? So this is about Colin and Penelope. And Colin, it's set further in the future than the last book was. They're in their 20s, and Colin is, I think, 31 or so. So it's a little jump in time, and he doesn't really see Penelope at first as someone who he could be interested in. But then the switch sort of flips, and all of a sudden he can't get enough of her. And every time they're alone together or he decides to kiss her, it's like he has to control himself because he like wants to go all the way all the time. And she's like, we're in a carriage, Colin, or we are at a ball, Colin. But he really does love her, and she certainly has her faults. I don't know. I mean, it's nice to see them get together. Colin is a different kind of person than he appears to be in the series on TV. He's much more mature and grows up a lot more in the books. And Penelope too is a little less scheming. I don't know. But the whistle down thing gets revealed at the very, very end. And it's pretty crazy. So this was great. Put my hand down now since I'm not spoilery. This was really great. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to starting the next one next, which I believe is Eloisa's book. So 4 stars for this. Okay, then last month's pick for Double Booked Co's reading book club, book of the month, why can't I talk, is Greenglass House by Kate Milford. This is the start to a middle grade series, and this was pretty good. I would say, from what I've heard from other people in the group when we talked about this, that listening to this was a little bit difficult because it's about spies. And Milo and his family live in this house, Greenglass House. It's a smuggler's inn, essentially. Now, smuggling, of course, doesn't really happen so much anymore, and it's the winter season, so they're not expecting any guests. Milo is looking forward to just staying in with his parents and having the house to themselves, drinking lots of hot chocolate and reading and by the fire and just having a good time with his parents. And then the bell rings and a guest arrives in the start of what ends up being a very bad blizzard. And then the bell rings again. They're at the top of this hill, and the bell ringing is someone who's arrived off of a boat, and they're triggering the funicular, essentially, to come up to the house, to stay there. And then it rings again and again, and it ends up being this house. They end up having this house full of all these people who aren't what they seem. They all have unusual names. Milo befriends a little girl who is the youngest daughter of the cook, who gets called in with her oldest daughter, who also helps to help take care of all the guests that suddenly arrived. It's like 2 or 3 days before Christmas. So Milo and his new little friend find out about this game. It's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, I guess. And they give themselves fake names, and they decide to investigate some of the guests because they're doing really weird things. And they say they don't know each other, but they seem to know each other, all of them. And things go missing and everything else. So it's really mysterious. There's lots of spies and spying. It's very imaginative, a little bit dark, deals with adoption. Milo is adopted, and he is, I think, Chinese, and his parents are presumably just white. So he's feeling a little abandoned and feels a little weird, even though he was a baby when they adopted him. He didn't know his birth parents, but, you know, he wonders about that. So that kind of comes up, and I liked this book. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. It was really good. It was a little oddly paced. It's pretty chunky for a middle grade book. It's like 400 pages, just under 400 pages. And you really have to keep track of each of the guests' names, nicknames, Milo and his friends' real names, and then their nicknames too, because they will talk to each other with their fake names and their real names in the same sentence. Another part of this book that I really enjoyed is that Milo suggests to the guests that they each tell a story at night. And these stories all have something to do with the house, supposedly, or each other, supposedly, or it's just based on a legend, but really there's a tie into everything else. So it's mysterious, it's storytelling, it's little kids adventuring on their own. It's kind of spooky. I enjoyed this. This was fun. And I look forward to reading the next one. I do have it. It's called Ghosts of Greenglass House, and I plan on starting that one this month. And the last one, I was just trying to give myself a win and read a short book. So I went to the A's here and picked up the thinnest one I could find. This is a Cafecito story by Julia Alvarez. So half of this book, 2/3 of this book, is a story about this man from, I'm going to say Minnesota and Kansas, someplace in the middle of America, from a farming family. His parents end up retiring, selling the farm. The whole city changes, and he's at a point in his life, in I think his 50s, where he wants to make a change, and he, spur of the moment, decides to go to the Dominican Republic and he's on this resort and he says, you know, I don't want to just stay at this resort. There's something I can do. Like, can I see how coffee is made? So someone knows someone who runs a coffee plantation, coffee farm up in the hills. So he decides to go visit them. He befriends the man and ends up buying the neighboring plot and teaching the man's wife and children to read. And they end up maintaining the old way of making coffee, versus the new way, which is to cut down all the large trees and just spray insecticide everywhere. So it's about the old way of doing things. It's about taking a chance in your life. It's based on a real person. So you hear the fairy tale first, and then you hear the real story about this person. And you hear about how coffee is made, which is way more complicated than I thought. And I thought I knew how it was made, and that was complicated enough. But there's a lot more to it. It makes me really appreciate my morning cup a lot more. So this was really sweet. If you like Julia Alvarez's writing, I think this is perfect. If you are interested in coffee and you can find this, I think it's great. There are also some really lovely, as you can tell on the cover, really lovely woodcut illustrations throughout that really add something to it. They're all in like here. It's really beautiful, really, really beautiful. So this was enjoyable, and I'm really glad that I picked it up to read it. And I did feel sadly very accomplished reading this small little book. It was like 2 sittings, I'm not gonna lie, but still I finished it, right? One more off of my shelf. So okay, what's coming up? I'm vlogging a little bit now for mid-month book bash this weekend, so I'll be doing that, and I really hope I can get that up on Tuesday. No promises, as I still didn't put out March yet. I have so many videos to film, it is not funny. We'll see how much steam I have tomorrow. One of them is my haul for March, which there's quite a few books over there. I'm gonna be running errands tomorrow, and I did sort of finish my book project, the first chunk. So, and I say sort of because one of my friends who's like family, she's my mom's neighbor, she came over to help me kind of wrap up the last half of the alphabet, M through Z, pulling everything together from the basement, the living room, the shelves in here, scattered throughout the house, getting them in alphabetical order, pulling out nonfiction, keeping fiction in order, and then reading the backs of all of them to see if I want to keep them or not. So we did most of that, and I say most of that because I got distracted and we ended up forgetting some of the bins downstairs to pull them up and factor them in. So it's okay, but you know. So I do have some space on a couple of shelves, which is nice. They don't all have to be double stacked, which is also nice. And things are downstairs in alphabetical order in bins, everything that was extra or leftover. So that's a good feeling. So all of my fiction of any genre, except for romance and series, is on these 3 shelves here. So I know where to find things. If it's not here, it's downstairs. That makes my life a lot easier. So in my living room shelves, half of the very top shelf is my book of the month club books, all in date order. And then the rest of the shelving there, except for my poetry collection, is nonfiction. That's the next step. I'll do probably in May or June to go through that, pull up all of the nonfiction that I have unread in my house, sort of loosely group them by Dewey Decimal System, just like 100s, 200, 300s. I'm not going to break it down that much. I really want to, but I'm not going to. I'm going to try and be a little chill about it, Laura. Be realistic. So I can get, you know, like all my nature writing together and all of my like celebrity memoirs together, that kind of a thing. So I know where to find things. And I will just start at the 100s and start at the top and then just file in as much as I can. And like I said before, everything else that's left over will go in labeled bins in the basement, and I will know where to look for everything then. So that is the next step, but that's long way down the road. So I might try and go through the bins that I forgot downstairs when I'm doing laundry this weekend. We will see. But I have to tell you, I've never had a small dog before. I've had dogs my whole life. My friends have had dogs. Our family has had dogs. We've had, dog city. And he's a real nervous little guy. So it's been rough. but he's settling in better now, and we're both getting sleep now, which is great, because that was not the case for most of this week. So it's a little distracting taking a dog out all the time. And he's always got to be on me or next to me. Like, I'm impressed I don't have to be touching him currently, which I get, but so it's throwing me off a little bit. That's all okay, but it's just throwing me off a bit. So we shall see. Anyways, how are you guys doing? Sorry for the blab, but it's 3 weeks, right? 5 books, 3 songs. That's not terrible. I hope. Sorry. Thanks for watching. And how are you all doing? How have your years been so far? How has this year been treating you? Are you struggling like I am? I am on the struggle bus, like firmly on the bus. I keep trying to get off and the doors keep shutting on my face, and it's like, no, you're staying on the struggle bus, lady. Great, thanks. Anyways, okay. Have a good one. Enjoy your weekend. And I will hopefully chat with you guys very soon. Oh, also, I finally have Instagram for Book Bubbler. It's just Book Bubbler. You can find me there. I will follow you back. But yeah, it's weird to get back into Instagram again. It's been a few years, so we'll see. Okay, have a good one. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.